Chapter 1. Danny, why did you have to follow your friends into that store? Danny's mom was upset because his friends decided to go into the gaming store to steal a game or two. They got caught and the police were called. Luckily, the store manager was a little lenient with him because he was not around his friends when they were shoplifting. Mom, I didn't know that was what they were going to do. They all just said they wanted to see what new games were out. I went in and looked around, and before I knew what was happening, the manager came over to me and asked me to step into his office. He could see that I was as surprised as he was that they tried to do it. It took a little while for his mom to calm down. Luckily, summer is coming up. I know that you're not going to like this, but I think this is the best for you. School is letting out, so what is going to happen is you are spending a few weeks away from here, so everything will blow over. You are going to stay with your Aunt Jenny. Your cousin, Maggie, will be away for a few weeks, so I want you to keep your aunt company and help her around the house. Danny, being 13 and looking for more independence, was not looking forward to spending time away from his friends. But he knew that to get back on his mom's good side he needed to do this. He remembered that his Aunt Jenny was pretty strict, but she was also a lot of fun. Plus the fact that he would be alone for a while when she was at work led him to believe that he could spend some time by himself. At least he could play his video games without being bothered, so reluctantly he agreed to go. Danny's cousin Maggie was a few years older than he is, but she never really talked down to him. She actually watched him a few times when his mom and aunt had to go out for a little while. She is a real girly girl and she does have lots of friends. Although he likes to see her, it will be better that she is not there. And at least he shouldn't have to stay there long. So Danny's Aunt Jenny came over to the house to pick him up. The two sisters sat and talked for a while as Danny had to finish packing a few things to take with him. What he did not know was they had talked about what they were hoping for during his stay there. I hope that you can calm him down a little and make him see that the choices he makes in life will have consequences later on, his mom said. Don't worry, said Jenny. We will have a few discussions and, although I never had a son to deal with, I know that what I've learned from dealing with a teenage girl will fit in fine with him. As they drove back to Aunt Jenny's house, she wanted to engage him in some conversations so she could find out just how he was feeling and what she might be able to do to help the situation. So, Danny, how are you feeling about this summer? Is there anything that you were looking forward to doing during your time off? Danny thought for a moment, and then looked over at his aunt. I really thought that this summer was going to be a lot of fun, Aunt Jenny, but after all that has happened I am not sure. All I want to do now is to have things calm down and let Mom see that I am really trying my best. Jenny looked over at him, smiled, and said, that is all she is asking of you. I hope that your time with me will be a bit relaxing and maybe you can find out who you want to be. Just remember that she still loves you and only wants the best. She pulled into the driveway and opened the trunk. Okay, Danny, grab your things and bring them into the house. As they walked into the house, Jenny showed him where he was going to be staying, but she also made sure to point out where her daughter's room is. Maggie will not be here for a week or two, but if there is anything you need from her room, she wouldn't mind sharing with you. Danny thought that was a very strange thing to say as he thought what he would ever need from her room. But he just smiled and said thanks and continued down the hall to the guest bedroom he would be staying in. For the next week Danny helped his aunt in the yard and around the house. He's never done much around his own house, but he was starting to learn how to do so many things. Not only did he help to fix things, but he also helped her clean the house and around the kitchen. Surprisingly, he was beginning to enjoy helping her with so many things. One thing she had him do when he was helping to bake in the kitchen was to put an apron on. He was a little hesitant at first, but she convinced him that to not get his clothes messed up. So he put it on and blushed a bit when she said that he looked so cute in it. Aunt Jenny had Danny help her out when she went grocery shopping. She really appreciated the fact that someone could help her carry the groceries from the store and into the house. She even had him go with her when she needed to go to the store. He was a little embarrassed when she took him into the women's department and over to the cosmetic counters, but she convinced him that men do this all the time and nothing ever happens to them. While there, he began to look at some of the clothes hanging there. He never really paid attention to any girl's clothes, but the more he looked he was fascinated by the colors and the styles available to them. Aunt Jenny saw him glancing around, but didn't want to say anything to make him feel more uncomfortable. She paid for everything and then the two of them walked over to the food court to get a bite to eat. While sitting there, she noticed that Danny was quietly watching all of the girls that walked by. "There are a lot of pretty girls around here, right, Danny?" He looked up, kind of embarrassed that she saw him glancing at them. I guess so, Aunt Jenny," he stammered out. "That's all right, dear. I know boys your age can't help but look. Just don't be one of those boys who tend to treat them as objects. They're just like you, you know." Danny agreed with her and said that he would never do that. Jenny smiled and, after she paid the bill, they walked back to the car to go back home. She tried to pry a few answers out of him on the way home. She asked him if he noticed how the girls around the mall were dressed, and if he thought they looked cute in various outfits. He began to blush again and mostly gave her answers like "I guess so" or "I think so." She didn't want to embarrass him any further, so she dropped the subject and asked him what he would like for dinner. They stopped at the grocery store to pick up a few things and Jenny began to notice more and more that Danny was trying to peek at what the girls that were in the store were dressed in and how cute they looked. "Maybe I should introduce you to a friend of mine who has a daughter about your age. It would be nice if you could go out with someone your own age here." He perked up a little after that offer and gave her a maybe. That was all she needed. One of her friends down the street had a daughter that was the same age as Danny and she thought that maybe they might get along. Jenny had a swimming pool in the backyard, so it would be natural for her to invite her friend and daughter up to cool off one day. And maybe Danny would become a little more involved around the area and maybe start to enjoy himself. So she called up Sally and invited her and her daughter, Amy, to come up for a swim and some refreshments. She did tell her that her nephew was staying with her for a while and would it be okay for the two of them to meet. Sally said it would be nice, and she even said that Amy had seen Danny in the yard and had told her she thought he was cute. So Jenny told Danny about inviting them up to go swimming and to treat them both as a guest in her house. "Amy is a sweet girl and it would be nice if you would spend some time with her while they are up here." Danny said he would be on his best behavior and would like to meet her. Saturday came and they had everything set up for a nice day of swimming. Danny helped set up some drinks and a few snacks. As the doorbell rang, Jenny asked him to answer it and let their guests in. When he opened the door, he was greeted by his aunt's friend and her daughter. When he saw her, he could not take his eyes off of her. She had a cover-up on, but he could see the outline of a very stunning pink bikini. After not knowing what to say for the first few seconds, he said welcome and introduced him to them. After a few pleasantries in the living room, Aunt Jenny said that they should all head out to the pool. No sense in wasting a good day in the house. "Danny, can you help me bring a few things out to the pool?" Danny nodded his head as he turned and smiled to their guests. Everyone retreated out to the pool as Danny put the drinks and snacks on the outdoor table. They had a few pleasantries to start a conversation before his aunt and Sally went off to another part of the pool, leaving Danny with Amy. Amy was very interested in hearing all about him and how he got to stay with his aunt. So he told her a little about the story that got him in some trouble and that he knew that his mom hoped that keeping him away for a few weeks would help him stay out of the mess his friends got into. "Well, it's nice to have you here for however long you are going to stay," Amy said. "It is always so nice to see a fresh new face around here." Danny said thanks to her and that he hoped she may be able to come up and swim again. "By the way," he said, I really like your bathing suit. The color is perfect for you. Amy smiled and said, "Why, thank you. That is so nice of you to say. I really do love this color. And I'll bet that this color would look great on you, too. Maybe you should try it on one day." She giggled a little after that, because Danny's face turned beet red. Amy knew right then that she might have some fun this summer with her new friend. Everyone had a very nice time swimming and talking. Danny had never spent that much time in the company of so many females before, but he slowly warmed up and had a nice time with all of them. But they all couldn't help themselves teasing him a little. They told him how much they loved his long hair and that they would love to get their hands on it to put some style into it, and just how trim his body was. He took all of the ribbing in stride and shyly said thanks. The whole time that everyone was there, Danny could not take his eyes off Amy and her bikini. He had to stop himself from thinking once or twice what it would feel like to have that on. He had to shake his head a few times to take his mind off it. Amy saw him the second time and asked him if he was all right. "I am fine," he said. "I just felt like I had to shake the cobwebs out." She smiled and told him she knows how he feels. After everyone left, the memory of what Amy said and just how that bathing suit looked kept popping up in his mind. He decided to go out for a little run to clear his head. His aunt told him to be careful and to take the path around the lake for a safe jog. The following day, Aunt Jenny told Danny that she was going out for a little while. He could come with her if he wanted to, but he told her that he wanted to stay there and relax for a little while before he started to clean up. After she left, he went into the fridge and got a drink out and sat at the couch. But with the image of Amy's suit still in his head and thinking about what she said, he decided to test himself out. He went up into his cousin's room and went to her dresser. When he opened the drawer, he gazed down at one filled with such lingerie as he had never seen. He thought to himself that no one would know if he tried something on. He searched for a bikini suit that he thought may be there, but she probably took it with her for the trip she was on. But staring back at him was a plethora of bras and panties in all colors and designs. "It wouldn't hurt to see what it feels like," he murmured to himself. He picked up the first bra he found and took a pair of matching panties out of the drawer. He quickly stripped off his clothes and gently slipped the panties up his legs. He was amazed at the way they made him feel as the satin and lace caressed his hips. He looked and saw that he was getting a bit too excited by them, so he tried to tuck himself as much as he could. He struggled at first to put the bra on before realizing that he could attach it in the front and spin it around before lifting it onto his chest. He began to have feelings that he had never experienced before and quickly took everything off and set it back in the drawer just the way he found them. He felt a little embarrassment as he ran around the house and did some laundry. He spent some time cleaning his room and doing the dishes, all the while thinking about what he has just done and the experiences it gave him. He blocked it out of his thoughts when Aunt Jenny came back after doing a little bit of shopping. "So what have you been doing today?" she asked him. He told her about the cleaning and laundry but never wanted to mention about going into her daughter's room and what went on in there. "Things look very nice, Danny. You have been such a great help around here and you have made a friend down the street. Amy wanted me to ask you if you wanted to go to the mall with her for the afternoon. She thought you may like some time out of the house." He jumped at the chance to spend some time with her. There was something about Amy that he couldn't quite put his hand on, but she made him feel so different inside. More so than any other girl he knew. "Do you mind if I do go, Aunt Jenny?" She told him she hoped he would and that he might have a good time getting away. "I'll call her mom now and you two can make arrangements for what time to go." Her mom said she would drive you there and pick you back up. They both talked and agreed that Amy's mom would pick Danny up at 1 o'clock and drive them to the mall. Danny didn't really know what to expect there, but he was anxious to see Amy again. Sally was there at exactly 1 and he was ready to go. As a matter of fact, he was ready about an hour before that, much to the surprise of his aunt. And she couldn't resist telling Sally on the side that he was so looking forward to it. When they arrived at the mall, Sally told both of them that they could stay until 4 o'clock when she would meet them at the drop-off point. They both agreed and hopped out of the car. "So, where would you like to go?" Amy asked Danny. "I don't really know much about this mall, so you lead the way and I'll just follow," he said. Amy was hoping he would say that, so she took his hand and said follow her. They wound up walking around the outside of the stores for a few minutes, until Amy ran into 3 friends of hers. "Hi, Amy," they all said. Then they all looked at Danny and asked who her new friend is. "This is Danny. He is staying with his aunt for a little while, so I wanted to get him out of the house for a while and see the sights. Danny, these are my friends Hannah, Courtney and Sandy." They all said hi to him and he, kind of shyly, said hi to all of them. "So, where are you two heading?" Amy said, "We just figured to walk around for a little while, maybe stop in a store or two and hit the food court." Courtney looked at Danny and said, "Well, you two have a great time shopping." "Watch out, Danny, this girl loves to shop." With that, her girlfriends walked away, but not before winking at Danny and smiling at Amy. They both headed to the food court first and bought a drink and some nacho chips. They both talked about friends they have, summer vacation and things that they were looking forward to doing. Danny told her a little about why he was staying at his aunt's house. She said that she understood why his mom did what she did. He did tell her that from now on he was going to be more careful who he hung around with. "Smart thinking," she said as she smiled at him. "Let's go to one of my favorite stores." "You can help me shop," she said. Danny wondered why she needed him to help her shop, because he felt that everything he had seen her wearing was perfect for her. "Do you think my insights will help you at all?" he said. "It's always nice to have another opinion," she told him. So, off they went to explore and shop. So Amy and Danny ran into Nordstrom's, which was her favorite shop. She took him by the hand and went straight for the clothes. He could tell she was in heaven, since she had that glazed look in her eyes. She pulled out top after skirt after dress and asked his opinion on all of them. He was just so happy to be with her that he tried honestly to give his thoughts on everything she chose. Once or twice she disappeared into the dressing room and came out wearing a new outfit. She modeled everything for him and had a hard time telling her yes or no, since he loved everything she put on. After Amy picked out 2 items, she took Danny over to the swimwear department. She started looking through the bikinis that were on hangers and picked out a bright yellow one that had a very skimpy bottom to it. She held it up and then walked over to Danny and held it out to him. "Do you like this one?" she said. "Yes, it's very cute," he told her. She then smiled and said, "I think that you would just look adorable in this one." Danny gave her a questioning look and then his face turned a bright red. She could tell that he was embarrassed by it, but that made her keep it up even more. "Wouldn't you wear this if I asked you to?" she said. Danny just shook his head and asked her why she thought he would want to wear something that was obviously very girly. "I saw you looking at my suit, and when I saw that I just imagined what you would look like in it. Maybe you should try mine on first before you think about getting your own." By this time she started to giggle and it made him even more uncomfortable. She said that she would stop teasing him, but deep down she thought about what it would look like. After that trip, Amy's mom was calling and saying she was at the mall waiting for them. So they both headed for the exit after making Amy's purchases. When they were ready to drop Danny off, Amy's mom turned and said that his aunt invited them up to swim over the weekend and that they would see him then. Amy thanked him for taking her shopping and that she had a wonderful time. "I hope we can do it again, sometime," she said and winked at him. He turned red again and thanked Sally for inviting him. He got out and as he walked to the front door his mind began to race. The thought of him in that bikini started to get to him, and he had a hard time getting it out of his mind. It was a few days later that Danny was once again alone in the house. He was putting a few things away in his room when his mind started once again thinking about how that bikini looked and what he had seen in his cousin's room. It didn't take too long for him to wander back into her room. He knew where the lingerie drawer was, and so he went over to her dresser. Opening the drawer once again, he found a very lacy bra and panty set in a peach color. Walking over to her bed, he took off his clothes and slowly pulled the panties up his legs. Noticing just how silky they felt, he had a shiver run down his back. He once again put on the bra the way he first tried it on. And to get the feeling of what it felt like with breasts in them, he took out 2 pairs of socks and stuffed them in the cups. He went over to the full-length mirror and noticed that, besides that little bulge in the panties, he actually looked a little like a girl. He smiled at himself as he was drawn to her closet. He opened the door and was amazed at what he found. There were dresses, skirts, blouses and sweaters that completely filled the closet. I never knew how many clothes a girl could have, he thought to himself. And what really took him by surprise were the different colors that were available. As he looked at all the choices there, he spotted a yellow sundress with some white and pink flowers on it. He took it out and looked at the way that it just seemed to flow off the hanger. He gently took it off the hanger and loved the way that the fabric felt. As he unzipped the zipper, he stepped into the dress, excited at the way it felt going up his body. It was a bit of a struggle, but he was able to zip it all the way up. He was not very fashion conscious, but he thought to himself that the color matched his blonde hair. He walked over to the full-length mirror and started to twirl around, watching as the dress swished around his legs. He was too caught up in the reflection and did not hear anything behind him. "Who's the new girl in my room?" he heard from behind. When he turned, he saw a few flashes as his aunt put her phone down. He immediately turned 30 shades of red as he stammered and tried to take the dress off. "Don't take it off, sweetie, you look so cute." "And that is definitely your color," he heard his aunt say. His cousin Maggie looked at him and, with a smirk, said, "I always wanted a cousin to share outfits with and to talk about things girly, and now I have one." Totally embarrassed, Danny looked at both of them and, with an almost whisper, said, "I am so sorry. From talking with Amy the other day, she kept telling me I would like something like this. I just wanted to find out for myself. I'll make it up to you and I'll take these off now." "You'll do no such thing," said Aunt Jenny. "We will show you just how much more will go into wearing something like these. And I am sure your cousin has a few things that she would share with you. But before we do, let's go downstairs and have some lunch. We have a lot to talk about." Danny was just stumped for words. He thought that he explained why he was dressed the way he was, but no one was buying it. "I didn't mean to do any harm to anything," he said. "I only wanted to see what the fuss was about." "Listen, Danny," Aunt Jenny said, "you might have convinced yourself that this was only something you wanted to find out about. But the way that you were posing in front of that mirror, and the look on your face has me convinced that there is more to this than just something for fun. So march yourself downstairs, Danny, and we will discuss things with you." With a little glimmer in her eyes, Maggie looked at her mom and said, "I think that since the way he looks now, we can't call him Danny. I think something more appropriate, like Danielle, may fit the way he is dressed now." Aunt Jenny just smiled and nodded her head in agreement. Danny was scared to think about what is happening right now. Here he was, just trying to be a little curious and find out what went into a girl getting dressed, and now he was being guided downstairs in his cousin's clothes and wondering just what is going to happen now. His aunt walked behind him and was a little surprised at the way he seemed to be walking very comfortably in the dress he had on, and thinking that he must have practiced this at another time. As they all walked into the kitchen, Aunt Jenny asked each of them what they would like to have for lunch. Danny felt like he was almost ready to cry as Maggie complimented him on how cute he looked in one of her older dresses. "Don't fret, sweetheart," Aunt Jenny said to him. "She is just trying to make you feel a little more comfortable. Now, tell me the truth. I was watching you walk with those clothes on and you looked so natural in them. Have you ever tried on one of your mother's dresses or any other clothes?" Danny looked at her and, very nervously, said, "No, I have never even thought about something like that. I really don't know what came over me today. It felt like I was drawn to them for some reason. But I will take them off and you will never have to worry about them again." "I think you look very comfortable in them," said his aunt. "And as long as you are here, let your cousin and I show you and let you feel like it is to be one of us. Neither of us is going to try and embarrass you, but since you did go into her room and take some of her things, I think you owe it to us to let you become my niece for the time you are here." Danny reluctantly agreed, and that really made Maggie happy. She told him that she would go through some of her clothes and things for him to try on and wear while he was with them. Although he knew that it really wasn't right to do this, something in the back of his mind kept saying what harm would it be to have a little different experience this summer. They prepared a little light lunch, which consisted of a salad and piece of French bread. One thing you will find out, Danny or I mean Danielle, is that we both tend to eat light meals throughout the day and a little more for dinner. Now, the first lesson we are both going to teach you is in the way you sit down. Stand up again and listen to everything I say. When you go to sit, smooth out the back of your dress like this, as she shows him how to use your hands to keep the dress from riding up. After that you can either cross your legs or your ankles. But make sure that you always have your knees together. We don't want anyone trying to check and see what type of panties you have on. They both watched as he tried to sit just the way he was instructed. He smoothed out the dress nicely, but when he went to cross his knees he swung them out a little too far, which caused Maggie to laugh a little as she told him the pink underwear had too much visibility for all to see. She then showed him just the way to cross them without showing anything. He turned a bright red as she told him to try again. This time was much better. Aunt Jenny told him that he was a fast learner. "I am going to have Maggie take you upstairs and go through a few of her things that will fit you. And I think I may have a little surprise for you, too. Just have fun with all this and you may get a little glimpse into what you need to look for when you decide you want to date a girl." So Danny followed Maggie upstairs and then entered her room. When they walked in, Danny turned to her and said, "Maggie, this is nothing that I really wanted to do or felt the need to explore further. Can't we just stop now?" With a stern look on her face, Maggie turned and told him, "Listen, you were the one who came in here and tried on my clothes. You may not have been looking to do any of this, but you have to admit that you do look really cute in them. Besides, I've always wanted to have a little sister to dress up and talk all about girl things. So just relax and, like Mom said, have some fun with it. Besides, I'm sure that you don't want your mom to see any of the pictures that we have. I'll bet that she always wanted to have a daughter too, and you just may give her the opportunity to have one. Now, let me go through my closet and drawers and find a few things for you to try out." Danny knew that he didn't want his mom to see any of those photos, so he sat on the bed as Maggie went through her things. She found a few blouses and 2 skirts, one more dress besides the one he had on, and a pair of skinny jeans. She then went to her drawer to pull out one more bra, 2 pair of panties, a nightgown and a one-piece swimsuit. "I think these will do until we go out shopping for a few new things." Danny looked at the nightgown and was a little embarrassed when he picked it up. It was a little longer than a baby doll nightie, but it did have a lot of lace around the collar and around the hem. He also saw that it came with a pair of panties to wear with it. "Why am I going to need this?" he asked. Maggie again looked at him with a silly grin. "Well, when we sit around before we go to bed and watch TV we all have out nightgowns on. And because I know that you want to fit in with us, you will need to have your own nightie to wear. I could get you a shorter one if this is too long for you. No, this one is fine, Danny said. He was now resigned to the fact that he was going to have to listen to what Maggie wanted him to wear, since he was sure that his aunt was going to go along with whatever she said. He gathered up all the clothes and took them to his room. Maggie followed and made him hang everything up in his closet and neatly fold everything in a drawer that he can pull out. As he was putting everything away, his aunt came in with another package. These will probably feel a little better in that bra instead of the socks you have wadded up in there. She then proceeded to hand him 2 breast pads. They're not quite the real thing, but they will do until we get some real ones to try. He was very embarrassed by that, but he took them, removed the socks and the cups and inserted the pads. They did give him a more rounded look and they filled him out, so he did look like a young teenage girl. You look much better, Danielle. Now I want you to come back downstairs so we can all sit back and watch some TV and have a little girl time together. Danny, now totally immersed as Danielle, went down to the couch and sat down between Maggie and his aunt. As they watched a few shows, both girls made it a point to give Danny a few lessons on how a girl walks, talks, and maintain her appearance and manners at home and out in public. You're not going to make me go out in public like this, are you? Said a very frightened Danny. Well, not as of tonight, my dear, said Aunt Jenny. But it may be a good lesson to show you just how a girl needs to be aware of all her surroundings and how to handle anything that comes her way. Speaking of which, I want you to call your mother. I want you to tell her just how much fun you are having and that if it is okay with her you want to stay a few more weeks to decompress. So Danny called his mom and asked her if it was okay for him to stay a few weeks longer. He told her that Maggie came home and that he wanted to get to know his cousin a little better. She said it was fine and that she was actually happy that he wanted to stay and help out. She then asked him to put his aunt on the phone. When she got on the phone, his mom asked Jenny if everything was okay and that it was all right for him to stay. She told her that it was more than okay and that she may be surprised at his attitude when he got back home. They talked for a few more minutes before she hung up. She looked over at Danny, as he was listening to Maggie explain why all the girls were crowded around a mirror, and smiled. After watching TV for a while, Aunt Jenny looked at the clock and said, "All right girls, I think it's time that we all turned in. And Miss Danielle, I expect you to be wearing that nightgown when you get up tomorrow morning. I'm sure that Maggie left you a robe to wear so that when you come down for breakfast, you should be wearing that." "Yes, Aunt Jenny," said Danny. "She did give me a few things to put in the cupboard and I will do just what you ask." "I'm not trying to be stern with you," she said. "What I want you to do is to follow your cousin's lead in everything, and you may find that you are enjoying the little change that you are experiencing. Now, it's off to bed for both of you." So Danny, now for all intents and purposes Danielle, walked the stairs along with Maggie. Before they went to their respective rooms, Maggie told Danielle that one thing they did not do today was to experiment with some makeup to give her the full effect of what a girl needs to go through when she is getting ready for anything. "We can look at that tomorrow." "Pleasant dreams, cousin." Danielle nodded to her and wished her the same and headed to her room. As he crawled into bed, it was a strange feeling to have anything on, since he usually just sleeps in his underwear, without any PJs. He noticed how it felt around his legs and waist, and the straps, resting on his shoulders, was something he only felt if he had a tank top shirt on. Only these straps were much thinner and so very smooth. He drifted off to sleep, wondering what tomorrow may bring and if he was ready to stay this way for a while longer. It had been a while since anyone had paid this much attention to him, and he felt kind of like he belonged. The next morning Danny woke up and, after going to the bathroom, instinctively put on his robe and headed downstairs. He could hear some rustling in the kitchen and he did start to feel a little hungry. "Good morning, sleepyhead," his aunt greeted him. "Did you sleep well?" better than I have in a while." He looked over at her as he spied some scrambled eggs that were waiting for him. As he sat down, he remembered that he still had his nightgown on. So he smoothed out the back of it and sat down with his legs still together. His aunt took quick notice of that as Maggie came downstairs, kissed her mom and then kissed Danny on the forehead. "Hi, cuz. You look like you had a nice sleep. I hope you liked the nightgown." "It was definitely a different feeling, Maggie, but I have to admit that it felt very comfortable to sleep in. And I'll bet you had some very different types of dreams last night." He took a fork full of the eggs and, before he ate, said, "I can't remember much about the dreams, but it was definitely a very restful sleep." "All right, girls," Aunt Jenny said, "after we eat and get things cleaned up, I've got a fun thing we can all do today." They both looked up at her, with Danielle wondering what was coming next. "What I had planned today was to get dressed and head out to the park to take a walk around the lake to get some fresh air and to give you, Danielle, a chance to see just what it feels like to get out into the open with your new clothes on." Danny looked up at her with a scared look on his face, as if to say, "I can't do that. And you need not worry about your looks. Once Maggie and I finish getting you ready, I don't think your own mom would know who you were, isn't that right, Mags?" Maggie looked right at her cousin and, with a gleam in her eyes, said, "You're so right, Mom. And don't worry, cuz, I am going to get you into a nice pair of jeans with a cute top and comfortable shoes." "Great," his aunt said. "So let's get these dishes cleaned up, get washed up ourselves, and get ready to go. You are going to love being out with us, Danielle. And we both promise that this is not going to be any kind of embarrassing experience for you." As Danny walked up the steps to see just what his cousin was going to set him out to wear, he was still in a slight state of shock with everything that has happened over the last day. He never had any thoughts about dressing up or being a girl before he came over to his aunt's house, but he was also a bit excited about all the attention he was getting. Plus, this might be a little bit of fun to be someone else for a few weeks. Except for a few people here, no one really knew who he was, so he was just going to go with the flow on this one. When Danny walked into his room, he saw that Maggie had set out a pair of jeans, a top that was white with some flower designs on it. Sitting beside them were a bra and panty set and something that Maggie said was a cami. "You'll need the cami so that your bra will not come through on the top. Just trust me on this. Now go ahead and put these on and I will help you with just a touch of makeup." Danny started to put the lingerie on with the cup fillers he had. Almost immediately he started to feel more like Danielle now. He put the top on and had just a little trouble buttoning it since the buttons were on the opposite side from what he was used to. When he put the jeans on, he noticed that the legs were a little shorter than he was used to. When he said something to Maggie, she told him that they were called capri jeans and that is the way they are supposed to fit. She then gave him a pair of socks with lace on top by the ankle and a pair of tennis shoes that he fit into comfortably. They were obviously something that a teen girl would wear, but, since he was playing the part, it worked. Danny, now looking and feeling more like Danielle, walked into Maggie's room just as she was putting her shorts on. He paid her a compliment in saying that he really liked those shorts and the way they looked on her. She told him thanks and that maybe she will need to see if there is another pair like this one in her drawer that Danielle may want to borrow. Danny just sheepishly smiled as she instructed him to sit down by the vanity mirror. She first brought out a curling iron and proceeded to work a little on Danielle's hair. It was long enough that she could add a touch of shape to it, without making it look too over the top. When she was satisfied with the look, she sprayed a touch of hair setting on it. Maggie then pulled out some makeup and set them on the vanity. "I am not going to overdo things, Danielle, but I wanted to give you a little taste of what some makeup will look like." Danny sat still like a model as Maggie put a dab of foundation on his face. She took a brush out and blended it in. Satisfied with the way that looked, she took some powder and lightly dusted where it may have looked a bit oily. Maggie took out a pair of tweezers and, after telling Danielle that it may sting a little, began to shape her eyebrows just a little. I'm not going to make them too obvious, but I wanted to give you a little bit of shape. She then had him close his eyes while she put a little eyeliner on. Not wanting him to look too gaudy, she brushed a light sandy-colored eyeshadow on. Then taking out her mascara, she slightly lengthened his eyelashes. "Almost done," she said. One thing that a teen girl loves to wear is a touch of lip gloss. With that, she took out a dusty pink shade and had him purse his lips. She outlined the lips first and then filled in with the rest. Handing him a tissue, she told him to put it between his lips to take off any excess. "Okay, you can look in the mirror now." He was totally shocked because staring back at him was definitely someone whose must surely be Danielle. She moved her head from one side to the other and could not stop staring. "All right, cousin, you can stop staring at the mirror now. It's really you. Let's go, girls. It's so nice out now," Aunt Jenny said. So, both of them walked down the steps. When Aunt Jenny saw Danielle, she was so impressed with the job that Maggie did to help her get ready. "You look simply amazing, Danielle. That outfit looks perfect on you, and I know that you are going to feel like a whole new person once we start to take our stroll. Let's all head out to the car. I know that you normally would carry one, but I am going to let you two leave any purse you planned on taking home." Danielle never thought about carrying anything, and since the pockets on her capris are shorter than she was used to, it made sense that if they needed anything, that a purse would be the handiest thing to have. Danielle got into the back seat as Aunt Jenny started the car up. They pulled out of the driveway and they both told her that this is going to be a fun trip around the lake and maybe they may stop for some ice cream afterwards. Aunt Jenny told Danielle just how beautiful she was, and as she didn't know any better, she said that there was no way anyone would think that she was nothing more than a teenage girl for a stroll. Danielle smiled and said thank you for that. "I was a little nervous about going out, but if you say that I look okay, then I am going to just have a nice time out with both of you." When they arrived at the park, Danielle got out of the car and looked around. There were people running, walking, bike riding, and plenty of little ones enjoying themselves on the slides, seesaws, and all the other equipment available. There were so many people around that she started to relax and joined up with Aunt Jenny and Maggie as they started to stroll around the lake. Aunt Jenny made sure that both of them were involved in the conversation as they strolled on the path. She asked Maggie how she enjoyed herself on the trip she took with a friend and her parents. Then Maggie started to ask Danielle questions about what activities she liked to do and how she enjoyed school. Danielle began to talk like any other teen girl would and told Maggie what she was looking forward to next year when school started up again. A good friend of Aunt Jenny was walking the other way and stopped to say hi. "You know my daughter, Maggie. And this is my niece Danielle. She is staying with us for a few weeks and we thought it would be nice to show her how nice our little part of town is." Her friend said hi to Maggie and said to Danielle that it was really nice to meet her. She asked her how old she was and Danielle replied, in as soft of a voice she could muster, that she was 13 and getting ready to go to senior high. "Well, you are a very sweet girl and I'm sure the boys are all going to be around you. It was nice to see all of you. Enjoy your walk." They all thanked her and once again started on their way. Maggie looked over at Danielle and said, "I told you that you are so convincing as a girl. And I'll bet the boys will be swarming after you next year." With that, she winked at her and they both had a giggle about that. About 20 minutes later, as they rounded a corner and saw the ice cream shop in the distance, Maggie heard someone yell her name. She turned and saw a few of her friends from school coming over to see her. "Hey Mags, how was your trip?" She saw her good friend Bethany coming over towards them, along with another girl and 3 boys from school. "Hi, Beth. Yeah, it was a nice time. Glad to be back." As they all came over, they said hi to her mom and then looked over at Danielle. She really didn't know what to do, so she just stood beside her aunt and looked to her cousin. Maggie looked over at her and said, "Hey everyone, I want you to meet my cousin, Danielle." She is staying with us for a few weeks." They all looked over at her and greeted her with a smile and a big hi. "Glad to have you here, Danielle. I hope your stay is going well." Danielle sheepishly looked over at Bethany and said, "Yes, this has been a very interesting trip. Aunt Jenny and Maggie have just been showing me around town." All of a sudden, Maggie's eyes lit up. She looked over at Danielle and then at her mom and said, "Mom, do you think it would be all right if I invited the group over for a little swimming party tomorrow afternoon? It would just be a few of us. And I am sure that Danielle wouldn't mind joining us for a while. What do you think?" Her mom looked at the group and then at Danielle and said, "I think it would be all right with me. Just keep the noise down and make sure that it is just a small affair. And I think that inviting your cousin would be a nice thing to do." They all turned towards her mom and Beth was the first to say, "Thank you, Mrs. Foster. Is it okay to come over right after lunch?" They all agreed that it would be the perfect time to swim. When they left, Danielle turned to her aunt and said, "I don't think that's a good idea. What will they say when I turn up in my swimming trunks and they are all looking for Danielle?" Maggie chimed in and told her, "There is no way you are going to wear anything but that one-piece suit that I showed you. And don't worry about anything. We are all just going to have fun swimming and listening to some music. I know that Danielle will be more than comfortable, don't you think, Mom?" Aunt Jenny agreed, and as they all sat down for some ice cream, Danielle began to wonder just what she had got herself in for. After their ice cream was finished, all three of them headed back to the car. Danielle's head was still spinning after hearing that she was going to take part in the swimming party that Maggie so easily arranged. When they got to the car, she got in the back seat again and began to show reservations once again about going to the party as Danielle. Aunt Jenny turned around before she started the car and told her, "Sweetie, you don't have anything to worry about. You saw the reactions from my friend and from Maggie's schoolmates. There is no way that anyone is going to mistake you for anything but the girl you were showing today. And just to prove how confident both of us are, there is one stop that I am going to make on the way home that will ensure that no one will mistake you for anything but a 13-year-old teenage girl. Luckily, since you are so young, there are no hairy legs or chest we have to take care of. And because you are just starting to blossom, we are going to stop and pick up a few extra things to make sure you are even more comfortable." As they pulled into a store parking lot, Aunt Jenny turned to both girls and told them to wait here and she will be back in a few minutes. Danielle noticed that it was a lingerie shop and she wondered just what she was going in for. Maggie turned and told Danielle that she had to admit that she was a little perturbed when she first got home and saw her wearing her clothes. But now she was happy that Danielle was enjoying being who she was for now, and it really felt like she had a younger sister to guide through everything she had experienced. And she smiled when she looked her straight in the eye and said that getting that first kiss will be a memorable time. Danielle told her that she was not planning on that happening, but Maggie just told her to take things as they come and you may be surprised. Aunt Jenny came out with a bag and, after getting in the car, told both of them that when they get home she bought a few things to try out for Danielle and that she felt that she was going to be so surprised at the way she was going to feel. When they made it home, Aunt Jenny carried the package up to her room. She told Danielle and Maggie to get the bathing suit for Danielle and meet her in her room. They both walked in as she was unpacking the bag. Danielle saw a small box and another small package on the bed. As they both walked over, Aunt Jenny looked over at Danielle. "Honey, I want you to take off your clothes now. If you are too embarrassed to take your panties off in front of us, I want you to take this package into my bathroom and exchange what is in here for the panties you have on. When you are done, I want you to come back out here." She took the package and, without any hesitation, walked into the bathroom. When she put on the new garment she was handed, it felt somewhat snugger than anything she had ever had on. When she walked back out, they both looked and told her that it works perfectly. "Danielle, That is called a gaff, and what it is supposed to do is to hide your member and give you a more flatter surface, just like a girl would look like. Now, slide your suit on and we will do some other adjustments to make you feel even better. Danielle put on the one piece and pulled the straps onto her shoulder. She looked down at her flat chest, but before she could say anything, Aunt Jenny opened the other box. She then produced a pair of realistic-looking breast forms and slid them into the suit. Since you are a girl of just 13, we don't need to give you a big chest. So these little forms will do the trick just fine. And before we have anyone come over, I have some special glue that we can attach them to you so they will look more realistic. So, what do you think about your new appearance? Danielle looked in the mirror and was stunned at what she saw. There before the glass was definitely a young teenage girl who was just about to blossom but still had that innocent look. Maggie had her pull her shoulders back and her chest came out a little more. The suit gave her a gorgeous little figure and the gaff was doing what it was meant to do. She looked at both of them with surprise in her eyes. Maggie smiled back and told her that she is going to be just fine out by the pool and that she should walk around a little with the suit on to get the feeling of everything. There was just a little voice in the back of Danny's mind that was wondering why he was doing all of this. He knew that he wasn't a girl, but deep down he was enjoying the fact that people were paying attention to him and that the feelings he was having were so much on the pleasant side. He spent the next hour just walking around the house getting used to everything he had on. The next day saw the sun shining out and the weather was perfect for a pool outing. Maggie called her friend and told her to call everyone and to come over by 1 o'clock. All three of them spent the rest of the morning getting some snacks and drinks ready for a day outside. Danielle was dressed in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt that, appropriately, had written on the front "Girl Power." After everything was taken care of, Aunt Jenny called Danielle up to her room. When she walked in, she saw her one-piece suit sitting on the bed. "Danielle, I want you to take off your top and your bra." As she did, she noticed that her aunt was holding a tube in her hand. Not knowing what to expect, she took off the top and bra, and set the breast forms on the bed. "What we are going to do now is to attach these forms to your chest so that there will be no movement on them. After they are set, you will be able to go swimming and walk around without having to worry about anyone seeing them shift." So Danielle trusted everything that her aunt was saying. She laid on the bed as she smoothed some of the glue to the forms and a little on her chest. "I want you to hold on to them for a few minutes so they get a chance to dry. And you don't have to worry about the glue, since there is an easy way to take them off again without hurting your skin." After a few minutes she stood up and was amazed at the little bit of weight that was now firmly on her chest. She looked down at them and then at her aunt. Smiling, she took her bra back and, very adeptly, put it back on with the forms perfectly placed. They all went back down to the kitchen and had a very light lunch before all of their guests arrived. After cleaning everything up, all three went upstairs to change into their swimsuits. Danielle made sure to put the gaff on first and tucked everything away, to give her that flat front. When she slid the swimsuit up her legs and pulled the straps on her shoulder, the breast forms fit perfectly in the cups. It showed a little bit of cleavage, but a young teen girl would not have much to show yet. She made sure to slather as much sunscreen on as she could, not wanting to burn. One thing that she forgot to think about was the fact that the sun would only hit the parts of the skin that was exposed. A surprise may come later. Satisfied, she walked down the steps just as the doorbell rang. Maggie went to the front door to let her friends in. The girls walked in and they all complimented each other on their suits. Beth looked at Danielle, smiled and said, "That suit looks very nice on you, Danielle. The color suits you perfectly." Danielle smiled and said, "Thank you." A few boys showed up a few minutes later, and they all retreated to the pool area. There were not enough lounge chairs for everyone, but the boys laid out towels to rest on. Most of the girls headed for the lounge chairs, with Maggie making sure that Danielle got her own chair. Everyone was having a great time splashing around and talking. Danielle felt so relaxed that there was never a thought about who she really was. Up until she was lying on the chair with her eyes closed and she heard a voice over top of her. "You look super in that suit. I told you that you would look hot in either a one-piece or a two-piece. And I've got just the suit for you." She looked up and got the shock of her life. Standing over her was Amy and her mom, admiring the suit. "Amy, I didn't know you were coming over." Amy just smiled. "When your aunt called to say that you were going to be here, there was no way I wasn't going to come up for a swim. Come on and get up, let's go into the pool." Danielle was so embarrassed that Amy had seen her in the suit, but there was not choice for her but to get up and go in the pool. As she stood up, she noticed that one of the boys was eyeing her up and down. She felt both a bit flattered and a bit uneasy, because this feeling had never come over her. Once they got into the pool and were away from prying ears, Amy looked at her and said, "I have to ask, what made you want to put this suit on? And before you answer, I have to admit that I was right in that you would have looked so good in that bikini we saw at the mall. So, spill the beans." Danielle then began to tell the story about the curiosity that came over him and how her aunt and cousins surprised him while he was in her clothes. She almost choked up as she revealed how they had complimented him in his appearance and that with the pictures they took there was not much of a choice but to go along with the deception. Amy just smiled and told Danielle that she really liked the way she looked and acted now and that she wanted to know if she would consider them girlfriends while she was still visiting. Danielle looked at her and said that as long as she would not try to embarrass her anymore, that how she felt now, that she would love to be BFFs. "Well, girlfriend, as long as you are still going to be here for a little while longer, we are going to have to take another trip to the mall, but this time we are both going to be trying on a few more outfits to find out what suits both of us. Do you agree?" Danielle just smiled and nodded her head. Then they both started to swim and splash around, all the while laughing like they had been friends for a long time. Very soon all of Maggie's friends jumped in the pool, and everyone was starting to splash around. The boys were looking for a little horseplay and they began to circle around the girls. Before Danielle knew it, one of them came up from behind her and, grabbing her sides, lifted her out of the water to throw her back in. In a quick second she realized that while he was lifting her out, his hand quickly crept up the front of her suit as he was trying to get a little feel. She came out from under the water and looked around to see who did the throwing, but there were a few swimming together, so she couldn't tell who it was. Now she knew just how a young girl feels when a boy gets a little fresh while playing around. She swam over to the edge and lifted herself out and sat on the side of the pool. Amy came over and asked her if something was wrong. She whispered that one of the boys tried to feel her up. Amy looked at her straight in the eyes and told her that boys tend to think they can get away with anything. Amy may be the smallest one in the pool, but the glare she gave a few of the boys made them turn and go the other way. Amy whispered to Danielle, "Now you know just what we have to go through on a daily basis. Boys this age seem to only have one thing on their mind, and I can tell you that it is not how cute you look in that bathing suit. It's more like how cute you would look with the suit off. Let's go sit down and get something to drink." So they came out of the pool and grabbed 2 lounge chairs, got a soda, and sat down. Amy immediately started talking about what it felt like to be a young teenage girl and the things she has gone through during school and over the summer. If someone was listening to them, it would seem like there were 2 very young girls talking about growing up and all the experiences they were having. Danielle was amazed that she could keep up with the subjects of makeup, girls' fashion, hairstyles, and sometimes being bored. Pretty soon it was time to clean up, and it was amazing at just how fast the boys were ready to leave. After Maggie said goodbye to her friends, she went back out to the pool to help Danielle and Amy clean up. Both moms looked on as the girls tidied up the place. Amy's mom was amazed at just how natural Danielle took to being just one of the girls, and asked Jenny just what she did to change the attitude from a boy to a girl. There was nothing that I did at the beginning, Sally, Jenny said. Maggie and I caught him wearing a few of Maggie's clothes. I took a few pictures and said that I would hold on to them, but he had to listen to both of us without any fuss. After that, he seemed to follow everything that we instructed him to do and say. He was a lot of help around the house, and after he started to dress a little more, it was easy to show him just what girls go through. There was never any hesitation about anything, except maybe putting on the bathing suit and coming out to the pool. But the girls made her feel welcome, and the fact that Amy didn't make him feel silly really helped. He will be going back to his mom's in a few days, so we want to see just how much more he wants to do and go from there. Danielle and Amy made plans to go to the mall the next day, and she was actually pretty excited about it. After everyone left, they all went upstairs to get cleaned up and ready to make dinner. Danielle went into her room and took her suit off. As she was smiling, she walked over to the mirror to see if her breast forms were still in place. It was then that she got the shock of her life. She had tan lines that she never thought about getting. She immediately called her aunt to come in. Jenny walked in and wanted to know what all the fuss was about. "Look at me, Aunt Jenny. I've got tan lines from the suit. I need to go back home in a few days and Mom would freak out if she saw these. What am I going to do?" Jenny couldn't help but start to giggle as she could see the predicament that Danielle was facing. "Don't worry, sweetie, just enjoy your shopping trip tomorrow. We will take care of everything the following day. One thing I don't want you to worry about is that your mom would find out just how you were spending your vacation away from her. Just go and get cleaned up for dinner and we will work on your issue tomorrow." Danielle just kept looking in the mirror after she got out of the shower. There was no mistake in the fact that she had worn a simple one-piece bathing suit and the tan lines were there to prove it. But she trusted what Aunt Jenny was saying, so she put it to the back of her mind, put on her bra and panties, got into a pair of jeans and a top and headed down to help start getting dinner ready. After dinner, all three of them went into the living room to watch a movie that Maggie had picked out. It was another of what some would call a chick flick, but they all enjoyed the way that the main girl got just what she wanted and that everyone was happy at the end. Danielle then went up to her room, took off her clothes and got dressed in what was now becoming her favorite baby doll nightie. The breast forms were still attached, so the nightie sat perfectly on her body. As she looked in the mirror, she couldn't help but see a young teen girl staring back at her. With her head still swimming at the sight of the nightie in the mirror, Danielle slowly walked over to the bed. She laid down and dreamt about what shopping was going to be like the next day.